Welcome to 3D Sportscast, episode 8. Now we're on we're going to be covering week 10, 11, and then making picks for 12 because we missed the week. My bad.
A little behind. It happens. It's okay.
It's all good.
We'll be brief about week 10 since it was 2 weeks ago at this point.
Yeah.
Ain't super much.
Well, and it started off with a game that who cares anyway? It's Carolina in Chicago.
Yep.
Bad teams, bad game. Carolina, I think, missed the field goal at the end. Could have tied it. Chicago won.
Baggett didn't look bad, but he's not even playing anymore anyway.
Yep, so a lot's happened since then. Yeah, old news. Your team, Washington.
My team lost.
Close game.
Close game.
This was the week that all the games came down like a field goal,
It was.
right?
All of them, like most of the games were really close.
So, first game of this week that came down to a field goal, Seattle won last second to beat Washington.
So sad.
Overseas, the last game overseas in Germany, Indianapolis played New England. Terrible game, 10-6.
It was ugly.
Indianapolis won.
I feel so bad for the Germans. That's
We'll pick it right.
We got these picks right so far?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next game, another game that came down to the final second field goal, Cleveland, Baltimore. This was the last game. Deshaun Watson's now out for the season after this.
Yeah,
this was
which
his
is
last
crazy.
game. Baltimore looking good. Both these teams actually looking good.
Cleveland won the game because of their
Defense. Well,
which is funny because the Baltimore still scored 30 points.
the funny thing is,
But-
I can feel like we can say this about a lot of Cleveland's games as they won because of their defense. But yet, it was a higher scoring game.
Ironically, like the odd thing about Cleveland is I was thinking about this today or yesterday. Cleveland's defense looks great.
Mm-hmm.
If they had Baker Mayfield, they'd probably have a much better record.
No, to be honest with you, I'm not a Cleveland fan, but I believe that they gave up on Mayfield too soon.
If
as well.
they would
I do.
have kept
Yeah.
Mayfield and had the defense
Well, the
they
problem
have
is
now,
with Deshaun is when you got him, he was already in that legal
Yeah.
issue. He was guaranteed so much money, and now that he's hurt, it's just it's a mess with Cleveland.
yeah.
Considering they're doing good, but they could be better. They kind of Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean 6-3 is pretty good. They
No, they
definitely
are.
Cleveland it
And,
up.
and this was a big win for them. Obviously, Baltimore ahead of that
Big
division,
win.
a very good team. In Baltimore, a good win. Again, they got one of their touchdowns was a pick six that got tipped, and so their defense
Defense helped them
out a lot. But either way, another game that came down the field goal, big win for Cleveland there. Next game, another game that came
Crazy
down
game.
to a field goal.
Super entertaining.
Houston, CJ Stroud still looking
CJ
good.
Stroud in this game probably really cemented himself as an MVP
Candidate, yeah.
'Cause
And
he already had Rookie of the Year.
little did
locked
we
down.
know at the time, this is also the last full game that Joe Burrow
Yeah.
was going to play, as now he's out for the season. But even with Joe Burrow, Houston looking good still. I
Yeah,
know
Houston deserved to win that game. They didn't win it because the Bengals
Yeah.
didn't play
Well,
good.
and
They just played
the
good.
interesting thing is Houston was up most of that game. They almost choked at the
And
end.
Stroud
And
came back.
but they got a game-winning field
Yeah.
goal. Again, Tyler Boyd had that dropped catch, which was big for them.
Yeah.
Been a couple big drop catches last couple
Well, this
weeks.
was, I believe, the second game in a row that Stroud led them on a game-winning drive.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
he didn't get a game-winning
Touchdown.
touchdown, but he led them
Well,
on the drive
that's
to
the
get
thing.
in
With
field
that
goal
Boyd
range.
drop catch, if Cincinnati would have scored a touchdown, I still believe Houston wins this game, and Stroud would have done enough to get him in. I just think
He's just done enough.
Yeah.
He's been good. He's
so.
been
And
very
he
good.
didn't have to find the end zone. Got the field goal. Got the
Yeah.
win in Cincinnati. Big win for Houston.
Big win.
As this was probably the worst game of the week. San Francisco at Jacksonville. Finally coming off a bye, San Francisco's back to San
Yeah, they
Francisco.
look good. They've looked like they should have all year. This week 10 and week 11, which would have been last week.
Yeah.
But
And then after that, not much to say there other than San
well, this
Francisco
was
looked good.
Well, yeah. As far as that
Yeah.
game goes,
Next, Josh Dobbs again.
Dobbs looked great.
And I know we said our last, it's been a couple weeks obviously now, but who is impressing you more, CJ Stroud and Josh Dobbs? And since then, they keep impressing.
They do.
I mean, really.
I mean, I'm definitely still going to say
Yeah.
Stroud for sure.
I think part of what was impressive with Dobbs, especially that first week, is
just the
he was
fact
so
that he
new on the
had
team and
never
didn't know.
practiced with
Yeah.
anyone. At this point, he's getting comfortable.
Well, and he's more of a
playing
veteran
very well.
player. And mind you, I think Minnesota's got a pretty. Obviously, they haven't had Justin Jefferson back, but other than that, they got a pretty decent
I
team.
think he's going to be
Should be coming
this
back
next
here soon.
week
And I
or
believe
two,
Justin
at
Jefferson
least.
is going to come back the next couple
Yeah.
weeks. So, but again, Josh Dobbs another win here as they beat the Saints. What is our pick so far?
Drew, you are up until this point.
By the way, this week he
Yeah.
He only missed
I
two
did
games.
really- Yeah,
on
last
week 10. Week 10,
11
yeah.
Or 10. I did.
Only missed two games, which we did pretty good
And
last
they were
week
the
too, but-
stupid games. Like they weren't like big
Yeah,
ones.
no, but
Yeah, you're 4-3 right now, and Dom is what was that? 6-1. Yeah,
Which one did I get wrong?
which one did you?
the Ravens.
The Ravens.
Lost by-
Which Ravens were up most that game, so.
Yeah, that was a close one.
Yeah, you both got that wrong.
But yeah, so that's the only one you've got wrong so far. Next one, Pittsburgh and Green Bay. Another team that's defensive. The defense is leading that
They're
team.
winning because of the defense. Because Kenny Pickett.
Well,
sucks.
and now since then, just this past week, the Steelers have fired their offensive coordinator.
They
so.
should have done that a while ago.
Yeah, I know
They
Pittsburgh
should-
fans have been
Yeah.
screaming for
They
that.
should have
for
actually
weeks now.
probably fired Kenny Pickett, given the fact that he sucks. But
Yeah.
we'll let it slide
Well,
for now. You can blame.
They're
your
finding
OC.
ways to win games now. We'll talk about a little bit, but this past week, a defensive battle between Cleveland. Cleveland did win, but they're still Pittsburgh has a decent record right now. They're finding ways to win games.
Considering how bad their offenses look,
yeah.
it's quite impressive that they
It
have
is.
the record that they do.
And speaking of Baker Mayfield,
Yeah,
he
looked pretty good against the
looked
Titans.
good against Tennessee. Tennessee did not look great, mind you,
He
but
hadn't looked good for a while.
at home, they get a win there. So that one did not actually come down to a field goal, surprisingly. But the next one did. Arizona, Kyler Murray finally back for them. They get a win against Atlanta at home on a last-second field goal.
And that's Dom's
This was my
second
that's
game.
second one
and
wrong.
final
Also
that I
lost
got
by 2.
wrong.
So-
And also a last-second field goal,
Yeah.
so it could have gone either way. Really, you're pretty perfect this
I should have gambled some money that week.
Yeah.
I was-
Then after that, Detroit. This was an offensive game here.
Yeah.
Detroit at the Chargers. Another last-second field goal. Detroit. How about the Lions though? They are.
They've
looking,
just been looking great. They look
good.
like they could win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like they're playing that well.
I think the only two teams I think that could potentially get in their way in the NFC is the Eagles and 49ers.
Mhm.
Other than that, Lions are at the top of the list there in the
For
NFC.
sure.
If they can find a way to get past both those teams, they could find themselves in
Yeah.
the Super Bowl, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Which would be insane, given that 2 years ago they had like.
Yeah. Well,
Or even
credit,
last year.
Credit Dan Campbell for. I've always thought he was a good coach, but it took time.
Mhm.
When they hired him, it was not pretty from the start,
No.
but they stuck with it, and they turned also the draft picks that they got from that trade from Matthew Stafford
Yep.
to the Rams into. They've let the
It
process
has
work
been
its way out,
a
and now
phenomenal coaching.
yeah.
I don't
And
know,
I'd say coaching and
procedure.
front office, just the way
Yeah,
that
just
they've
the
been
whole
able to build
team.
this team,
The whole team, which is crazy.
it's finally starting
Yeah.
to see the results.
It's you don't get to see it happen so quickly very
No.
often, and it's neat to see.
So good for Detroit. As wrapping up this week, Giants at Dallas. What we thought was going to happen.
Yeah,
this
we
was
all
the
thought
worst
this
game
was
of the
gonna
week.
Hey, at least it wasn't 40-0.
That's
At least
true.
They scored, yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
first
this
week.
time it was 50 to
49
I mean,
is-
pretty
yeah.
much the same.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
yeah, basically 50 to 20.
I mean, not
Oh boy.
not good still, but yes. Hey, if you're a Giants fan, at least you scored that game. But Dallas wins big there. Sunday night game.
This
Again,
was the week after the Vegas fired.
fired the
their
coach and changed their quarterback.
Yep. And they
They won.
against the bad Jets team, but they still won.
And the
they
Jets,
looked,
the Jets also still had a chance of winning this
They
game
did,
as well.
they did. It
It's
was
almost
close.
like neither team wanted to win, but Vegas found a way to win at home. Again, not a good Jets team. Well, Jets team, their record I think is better than they've played, but the last couple weeks have not looked good for the Jets. Now going into this next week, Zach Wilson is benched, I think,
Yeah.
finally, which is like the third time in the last 2
Yeah.
years they've done that. But either way, the Jets did have a chance to win this game, but again, the Raiders found a way to win. Then the wrap off the week. This, I think, is not good, but good for my Bills. We shouldn't have lost to Denver, but Denver has been actually looking good, first of all. Second of all, it finally forced us ourselves to fire. We fired our offensive coordinator, and what we saw now this last week, which we'll get into, we looked better again. We looked like the Bills again. So
but was it the Bills being bad or the Broncos being good?
honestly, I think it was a combination. The Bills were not playing up to their standard. The Broncos have been
The
playing better.
Broncos are now the
Then,
best
yes.
team in the league.
Well, they have the longest win streak in the league right now.
Clearly
yes.
the best in the league. They're going to win the Super
Well,
Bowl.
and those two of their-
Russell Wilson's going to win Comeback Player of the Year.
Think about it. Their
He's gonna
last.
throw for 40 touchdowns the last couple games here.
Think about those. Their last 3 wins though were
They have
against
looked they have
the
some
Chiefs,
of the best teams
the
in the
Bills,
league. Yeah.
and a hot Minnesota team with Josh
Yeah.
Dobbs. So, and again, it was not pretty for the Bills. We started to get together and took a lead in the fourth quarter, but then we made Bills-like stupid mistakes and found a way to lose at the end. But
no, Broncos look good.
again, I'll just say this: it's a good for the Broncos, and it's also a good thing we've had a week to we've had another game since then. I would not be acting this calm.
We've been talking about this game for a while.
I would not be acting this calm if it had just happened, and luckily I've gotten it out of my system. Anyway, that wrapped up the week, though. Good for Denver, though. I'll say that.
Good for Denver.
So we were back. Sorry, technical difficulties there.
We'll
but that's okay. That was a good transition. We finished week 10 now to last week.
Starting off with a very big game and possibly a season-altering game. On Thursday night for the
for Cincinnati than Baltimore.
More for the Cincinnati than
Which,
Baltimore for
the weird thing is, before Joe Burrow even got hurt, or we knew he was hurt, this was a big
still
game.
a big game because it was
and it wouldn't have been, with a loss here, it still would have been hard for Cincinnati with a tough schedule upcoming to come back with Joe Burrow. Now that he's out, I don't know. Obviously, they said he tore a ligament, which
they say season ending.
The thing is, also, if you going into the game, there was something going
a non-disclosed injury
before the game.
Undisclosed.
Obviously, you probably heard all about it already. The NFL is
controversy.
the NFL is apparently investigating on why he was not on the injury report. So either way, it's huge loss for Cincinnati. Not only the game, but they lost Joe Burrow.
Losing Joe Burrow, honestly, if what they are estimating is true and he's going to be out for the rest of the season, I think the Bengals can basically write the season off.
Yeah, with 5-5, and the record they have in the conference, in the AFC, and with the schedule they have remaining without Joe Burrow, it's
honestly,
not looking
at this
good.
point, it looks more like the Bengals are going to be fighting for a wild card spot
instead
of a Super Bowl spot.
Well, and can they even get that?
If they
right
can
now?
even get that with having no quarterback. Is T. Higgins still out, or who not?
Yeah, Higgins was the one out.
The one out.
I don't know if he'll be back, but he was still out in this game.
I think that's the thing. Like they're just not looking good. They're really battling injuries. The whole team is not.
What really hurt Cincinnati is they started the season bad. Now the last couple of years they've done it as well, but they've been able to bounce back.
Yeah, they've been able to stay.
They
healthy
started
and
to look
back.
like they were on that bounce back,
They just
but
kept
then
battling injuries.
Yes, so it's not good. Another home win for Baltimore as they kind of take over that division. A good division, probably the best division.
And Lamar Jackson's been playing MVP level. Lamar Jackson still. This game, they looked very good. I would expect Baltimore to continue to play this well. And they're honestly looking more and more like they could make a Super Bowl.
They
I
haven't agree.
Looked like that.
I feel like there's a part of the reason they haven't looked like that is because of their injuries. Lamar's been the last couple of years.
Aside from Dobbins this year, they've been able to stay healthy. And they're because they have two running backs that they've kind of replaced Dobbins with. They both looked fairly decent.
Gus Edwards, I believe, who looked really good, and I think they have a rookie guy who's.
I think they
don't remember
both,
his name, but
both some reps in the games.
But who's looked good too. So
obviously, it's not the same as having Dobbins. Dobbins was a phenomenal running back.
But I think if I remember, I picked Baltimore as a wild card team at the beginning of the year. But I knew they were a good team, but part of what we talked about was not only the division, but could they stay healthy?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, they have, and now Cincinnati's the team that's hurt. Yeah, that's the thing with football is there's going to be injuries.
There's always surprises in the season.
Who's going to get hit with an injury at what time and how you just never know. That's part of what we love about football in the NFL. It's unpredictable. It's always fun to watch, interesting. Another good win for Baltimore.
And did we both pick?
I believe we both picked Baltimore here, so we got that right. As we both. Weird thing is, even though we did not make our picks together last week, we still made the same exact picks.
Yeah, because we didn't discuss anything last week. We didn't see each other, and I sent my picks in, and then it's like, oh, that's the same.
It's the same exact pick. So that's crazy. So next game is Giants.
Giants Commanders.
Hey, DeVito finally had a good game.
As a Commanders fan, I
that's okay. I rant.
This was the worst game I've ever seen as a Commanders fan. I've been a Commanders fan, I think right around when Chase Young was drafted was when I really became a hardcore fan. this was the worst game I've ever seen. This was the worst defense we've played. We let DeVito get 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's not good. Well, and mind you,
he's not good.
He's not good. But mind you, your secondary hasn't been good all year, and your defensive line, now you traded away Sweat and Young.
It's awful.
It is bad.
It was so bad. And the thing is, Sam Howell, he still threw for a considerable amount of yards, and I believe he's actually leading the league in passing yards, yes.
Which
is awesome for a first-year starter. It's just horrible. Yeah. We need to fire Ron, just not because he's necessarily a bad coach, which, I mean, honestly, with our record, he's not looking like a great coach.
Yeah.
But clearly we need to change something. Our defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, he should have been fired like 6 games ago because our defense has been bad all year. When you had the 4 people up front that we did on the D-line and you're playing as bad as we were on our, like, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's not good.
When you have 4 of probably the top, I don't know, 10 to 15, like all 4 of them were probably top 10 or 12 players at their position.
The main game that I watched of the Commanders this year was when they played my Bills. That was obviously early on, but I thought, Washington's, because we haven't had the best, most consistent offensive line throughout the last couple of years. My worry was that defensive line, and they didn't really do anything. And part of why they ended up trading some of those pieces away and kind of rebuilt, which we talked about.
And if
before.
you look at the pieces we've traded, they've looked pretty good on the teams they've been to.
Yeah.
Chase Young went to the Niners. He's had a sack in both games since being there.
I don't know, Sweat
went to the Bears.
1 or 2 sacks as well.
Yeah, he's been getting sacks and looking good. And our team's just been bad.
I think the bright spot is your offense. Now, mind you, your guys' offensive line hasn't looked good. But Sam Howell, first-year starter. I know, actually, he's not getting the credit I think he deserves as far as...
If he was a rookie, he would...
Yeah.
I don't think he would be in the rookie... He'd be behind Stroud in the rookie. Although, are they in the same...
Well...
Is Stroud in the NFC?
No, Stroud's in the AFC. But I think...
So they both could have won it. But the thing, as far as AFC goes, though, or NFC goes, if he was a rookie, he'd probably be in the Rookie of the Year conversation.
Yeah, but
leading passing yards and stuff like.
The funny thing is Stroud's number 2 right behind him, so technically you got 2 first-year starters up there. I think part of why he's not getting that recognition is his team is just not done that good.
At this point in the season, where our record's at, obviously it's not going to happen this year. I would be surprised if Ron and Jack Del Rio, and honestly, the entire front office, having new owners and the year falling apart like this, like it has, if it's not some major changes, I would be very surprised.
Yeah, I agree. I think, obviously, Ron had a history back at Carolina there for a while of being a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
And not that he's a bad coach, it's just, again, I think it's the same with the Ken Dorsey thing in Buffalo. Not that he's a bad offensive coordinator. Sometimes when things aren't working, you got to change something.
You got to do something about it. And the thing is here, here with Ron, it's just the way that he coaches isn't the way that the NFL's ran anymore anyway. He's a very defensive-minded coach, kind of like Belichick in a way. Mm-hmm. Belichick is obviously a million times better than him. But they're both kind of more defensive-minded, and as the league is shifting, I feel like they're not as good as they once were because the league is no longer so focused. Well, and not that they're pure defensive-minded.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
But they have more of an emphasis on that, and they do it in a different way. Where you coach like Andy Reid, who's very offensive-minded, right now that's what the NFL likes.
I agree. Well, and that's been one of my problems with the Bills, too, is our coach, Sean McDermott's a defensive-minded coach. And I believe he may have been a defensive coach under Rivera in Carolina. So, not that defense, obviously, people say defense wins championships, which it can. And in a couple games, we're going to be talking about Pittsburgh, Cleveland. We see that defenses are helping those teams win games.
They do matter.
But you can't focus solely.
No.
But again, Washington doesn't even have a good defense this year.
They
have not had a good defense. So, for a defensive-minded coach like Rivera,
Rivera actually handed over all of the offensive play calling to Eric Bieniemy.
Yes.
So Eric Bieniemy's been the one running the offense.
Yes. Well, we've seen it's not only helped Washington, but the Chiefs, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, their offense.
They have not been the same since Bieniemy left. So,
clearly he had something to do with it.
So, I think again we've talked about it. there's some bright spots to look forward to if you're a Washington fan, but there's a lot of things that need to be changed, and this is not your year. This is not obviously the worst, like you said, the worst game.
It's so bad. This was embarrassing.
I
was extremely upset. The good thing is though, right? The Giants got a win, right? And Washington lost. So now we're 4-7 and they're 3-8. Washington very well could have themselves a top 5 pick if they continue to play as bad as they do. I mean,
we'll see.
I wouldn't complain about it as a fan.
They didn't get first round picks, but they got, I believe, second and third round picks from their trades with Sweat and Young.
Well, and we still own our first round pick for this year, so we'll have
that pick, have picks.
2 second rounders, 2 third rounders.
So we'll see what you guys can do with those picks and how the future looks. But
I'm excited for the future, but right now it's really sad.
Right now, and I think I saw something too about it has to do with the game, but it doesn't. As far as after the game, I saw that the water heaters.
Oh my gosh!
Did you see that?
So
no one could shower
because Dan Snyder spent no money ever on anything.
Your stadium's falling apart.
The stadium's literally falling apart. The whole lower level hot water heaters broke, and they couldn't fix them because to shut off the water to the hot water heaters to make repairs, you have to shut hot water off to the whole stadium or water off to the whole stadium, which you can't do in the middle of an NFL game.
Yeah. Well, and this is after last year, I believe you had pipes burst. And
it's bad. It's
the
really
good
bad.
thing in Washington is you've got new ownership
We've
now,
got
so
new
hopefully
owners.
things will
They've
change.
already changed things up a lot.
But yeah,
Anyway,
the funny thing is the stadium's not even that old
not that
compared
old.
to a lot of the other stadiums, and yet
you just didn't pay for anything. You didn't keep anything up at all.
But either way, enough of that. Not a good look for Washington.
No,
hopefully the future's brighter than this, but
it definitely is. With Sam Howell, I'm excited.
Yeah. Stay in the division with Dallas, Carolina. This is kind of what we thought would happen. 33-10, Carolina. Obviously, this has not been a good year for them. Sadly enough, speaking of drafts, they don't even own their first round draft pick, so not good for Carolina. But Dallas goes in there. They can beat teams like this. Now we'll see coming up. Can they beat some of the tougher teams?
Because honestly, every time they've played a tough team, they have not looked great.
So we'll see.
Beat the ever living tar out of everyone else.
That's the thing. Dallas has a good team. Dallas can. I mean, they are a good team, and they can compete with the good teams. But can they win?
Can they win
those
the
games? Not sure. But here they got
they got a pretty good win.
A win they should have got on the road. So
I believe they actually did. They have a defensive touchdown.
Don't know. You can look at the what would be the game tracker.
Actually, let me go see pick 6 maybe.
Fumble, interception. Yep, TD.
Okay,
right
yeah.
there,
so they did get a.
Oh, and that's
touchdown.
right because it was Bland because he now leads. I think he.
Oh yeah, he's got
the record.
four
pick
sixes
this season,
which is
ties the
insane.
record
In week 10 or 11 or whatever.
This is 11 now. So yeah.
Which is insane. Good for him. I hope he beats it because I think that record was set in '98 or something.
It's funny because it was last year, the year before, where Trayvon Diggs, the corner for Dallas, was having a great record-breaking season. I think as far as like interceptions or something goes, he's obviously hurt this year. But yeah, Bland,
that's cool,
looking good.
As far as Carolina goes, Bryce Young has not looked very good.
Well, he's a rookie, but he's
still just even for a rookie. The thing you kind of got to give him a little slack is because his team is so bad.
Yeah.
And it's not like, obviously, if you threw him on a team like the Chiefs, he'd probably have more yards. Still wouldn't be doing great, but you gotta give it a few years. It's really hard to judge based on just a rookie season on a team where there's almost no weapons.
We'll see how the future for Carolina looks. Right now, it's not looking good.
It's not looking good.
It's just not.
No. When you have a very high possibility, obviously they traded it away, but of having back-to-back first overall picks, that's bad.
Yeah, not good. I don't know what to say. It's not good, but Dallas got a win they should have got. They will now play Thanksgiving against your Commanders, so they should win that game.
Let's just say I have the Commanders defense on fantasy football. And believe it or not, I'm not starting.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of defense, we'll go to that Pittsburgh Cleveland
Believe
game
it or
now.
not, the two teams that have really good defenses and really bad offenses.
Their records are still, if the season were to end right now, they still would both be in the playoffs somehow.
And they both had, it was the most boring game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll say this. As a Bills fan who's on the outside looking in right now, we're like the first team out. It's the team that I think, well, first of all, I hope we beat Miami out to win our division still. But if we don't, we get a wild card spot. The team that I think does not deserve to be in the playoffs, as good as the record is Pittsburgh. I'm sorry.
Their offense is so bad.
Their defense is keeping them alive, but their offense, should not be a playoff team.
Pittsburgh might have as far as wins, if wins above replacement, if WAR was a stat, like baseball WAR or whatever, was a stat in football, Pittsburgh's defense would have the all-time highest WAR ever. Like the amount of wins that they've generated
Pittsburgh
just because of
has
their
not
defense.
had a losing season since 2003. They find ways to. We've talked about it before, but the thing is, they're going to be one of those teams that they're going to. At this point, they should end with a winning record. Will they make the playoffs? I think if they do make the playoffs, they're going to be eliminated right away.
Yeah.
So that's why I just don't think they even deserve to be in there. But
Kenny Pickett is just so bad.
Now, again, they did fire their offensive coordinator. Now we'll see if that makes a difference. But
we'll see.
As of right now, they're in a spot to make the playoffs. Will they? Well, I don't know. It's just.
Let's just say if I was a Steelers fan and I look at my team's record and I see 6-4 and then I see Kenny Pickett who threw 100 yards barely. I would be very happy.
I'll say this. I think the brightest spot for Pittsburgh the last couple weeks has been Jalen Warren, the rookie running back.
He's looked very good.
And I don't know what's going on with Najee Harris, but they've started to lean more towards Warren, which
honestly, it's kind of working. Najee Harris has not looked.
Jalen Warren's running.
He's just looked very good.
Very good. Let's look at his game log the last couple. Look at this. The last last 3 weeks.
He's averaged over 100 yards each game if you combine everything.
I mean, think about this. First, week 1, he only got 3 carries for 6 yards. And even just a couple weeks ago, he only had 5 carries for 19 yards. The last 3 weeks,
11 carries for 88.
15 for 101, 9 for 129, and 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games. So
that's pretty good.
He's looking good.
Now, granted, he did have a 74-yard touchdown.
Yes, that's true.
That kind of inflates the numbers a little bit.
But again, he's been a young bright spot for Pittsburgh's offense. Now, to Cleveland's offense, obviously they've lost Nick Chubb, and they've lost their quarterback, Deshaun Watson. They've had the quarterback. That's another thing, is they have not had a consistency at quarterback. They signed Joe Flacco to the practice squad, and they have. I don't know if he's just there in case.
Joe Flacco.
But you got a rookie starting. You won the game. It was a home game. You found a way to win, but again, it's a rookie. Not.
Somehow they have a 7-3 record.
So
it's just
the
weird.
Funny thing is,
this was a weird game.
Pittsburgh and Cleveland are so similar.
They are very similar.
And the fact that they got probably better records than they should. Mm-hmm. Their defense dominant. Their defenses are good, but their offenses just have. If they had good offenses, imagine how good these teams would be.
Oh, dude, they like the Steelers and the Browns, both of them. If they had good offense, they probably could be undefeated at this point.
It's just So.
Now, this game, if you would have told me a week ago, I would have said that the Browns had the better offense, having Deshaun Watson and some of the weapons, if you want to call it.
Well, they got Amari Cooper, who's been
he's pretty
good receiver.
He's pretty good.
That's
but
about
maybe
David Njoku, who's
a mid-tier at best tight end.
Yeah, but again, because you've lost Chubb.
Yeah, you've lost all your weapons. Like.
I don't know. Somehow they're 7-3. They're a team that we'll see where they end up.
I'm very curious to see what these
guys
look like.
The AFC is so odd right now, and these next couple of weeks are going to be insane. Well, all the NFL, but especially the AFC, with these teams up there in the wild card, and then you got teams like Buffalo, Cincinnati as of right now. Which again, Cincinnati's going to look a little different.
Yeah,
with Joe Burrow out.
Very different.
But if you would have told me before the season that at this point Buffalo and Cincinnati would be on the outside looking into teams like Houston, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh,
That would be, especially Houston.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
Houston's
actually, yeah.
the biggest thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's which we'll get to in a minute.
Yes, but
yeah,
a lot to go in the NFL and in the AFC, but some crazy things going on. That was a boring game, but Cleveland found a way to win 7-3.
And I believe we both picked Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
We both got that game right.
right.
So another crazy game this week. Now this was more entertaining.
This was actually, I watched some of this.
I did.
Game.
I watched most of the
Fields.
game too.
I don't care what people say. Fields is the way to go for the Bears. Fields looks good. He had a great game. Honestly, at this point, the Bears, they can't say that they're losing because of Fields.
Well, and Chicago should have won this game.
They should have. They should have. It was at the very end, I believe, that they got a...
Detroit scored 2 touchdowns in the last couple minutes to win this game. It looked like Chicago had it under control. Again, like you said, Fields came back, played good.
But I mean, his stats weren't phenomenal, but just the way that he played was
he played good. Another thing that helped Chicago, especially early on, is Goff had a rough start to this game. He threw 3 interceptions.
Not good.
But I will say about Goff is he found a way to bounce back. And bad, this was not a great game for Detroit, but they found it was a divisional game, and they found a way to win and keep that.
Honestly, you probably don't want to say you found a way to win against the Bears.
The Bears, yeah.
But the thing is, the Bears had a good game. And Justin Fields, I just want to come back to that. He really put the team on his shoulders here. Over 100 rushing yards, and over 100 passing yards.
And again, it's a divisional game. So,
like, if I'm the Bears at this point, and obviously they're going to have probably the number 1 overall pick.
They're going to have maybe 2 of the top 5 picks.
Yeah. If they would be dumb to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
If you have someone like Fields who's young, he's not winning, but how's he supposed to win?
Well, here's the thing. You got Justin Fields. You traded for Sweat on defense.
Well, and Moore, he's actually been playing pretty good this year.
And so now you're going to have a couple top picks that if you can find guys in positions that you need, in a few years,
this
could be a good team, yeah.
And I feel like throwing away Justin Fields for a rookie who you don't know, when you know Justin Fields is at least a middle of the road, I would say, I would honestly say that Justin Fields could be a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like borderline, at least where he is right now. Obviously, his ceiling is a lot higher, and you see flashes of that. But right now,
it's a little bit. The thing is, he's good. It's just lack of consistency.
Yeah, it's lack of consistency.
But it's also hard with your team
when the team is so bad.
And again, he's been in and out with injuries. This was his first game back. He was out for it was probably 3-4 weeks.
3 weeks.
So the good thing for Chicago too is you got not only Fields, who's still a young quarterback, but you do have a good young guy behind. Yeah. You got pieces. You just need to.
I feel like because all the draft boards are saying Caleb Williams draft. The Bears need to draft him. Blah, blah,
also,
blah.
I think
I don't think he should go top.
Even though he's good, I think he's overrated.
Definitely overrated. You're in college football. You can be a good quarterback and lead your team to wins, and he's not doing that.
Yeah. Well, and again, I know USC does not have a good defense. That's been part of the problem, but Caleb Williams hasn't been spectacular either. So
against mid-level college defenses.
yeah. So,
but anyway,
I don't know.
This is an NFL show.
Yeah. Well, I know we'll get
into that stuff eventually, but
more towards the
because we'll go over
off-season, and stuff when that comes. But
anyway, the Bears would be. I feel like they'd be done the draft.
Bears have not had a good season. They have a bright future. They should have won this game, but good for Detroit. You find a way to win.
Yeah.
And you're going out
8-2.
into Thanksgiving. Going out into Thanksgiving, you're 8-2, second best record in the NFL.
If you would have told the Bears, if you would have told the Lions at the beginning of the year that after 10 weeks they would have the second best record in the NFL,
going into your Thanksgiving
game, like
that's
they'd
because how many times in the last years? Because obviously the Lions always play on Thanksgiving. Have we watched the Lions on Thanksgiving? And you're not in a position. They're not in a position, or they're already not in a position to be in the playoffs. And it's kind of like, okay, it's a tradition. The Lions are on, but they're not a team. Now it's like, oh, the Lions are on. You know?
Like it's a good game to watch. Fun football.
Good for Detroit.
Yeah.
So,
but moving on, and I believe we both did.
We both picked the Lions there too. And this is another weird Green Bay, who has not had a good season. Obviously, they're at home. found a way to beat the Chargers, and the Chargers cannot find ways to win games.
Find ways to win. They've looked good. Like, they've looked good at times. The Chargers are one of those teams. They continue to be way better than their record is.
Yes.
But
honestly, all that matters is the standings and what your record is, and they're not.
No, they can't put it together.
I don't know how serious it is, but I saw Joey Bosa got hurt in this game for the Chargers.
I don't think it was a super serious
I don't think
injury,
so
but
it was like a sprain, maybe out for a couple weeks. But, and I saw kind of like the Chiefs game, which we'll get into in a little bit. There was a key drop on a key play by a Chargers receiver in this game where just dropped it, and it's like...
Yeah, and
you can't blame Justin Herbert's battle the last couple of years through injuries, continue to play well.
It's not Herbert's fault.
No.
Herbert is definitely a bright spot in a poor Chargers
Herbert's
team.
a good young quarterback. You have weapons on offense. You have a decent defense.
Really,
it's just not coming together.
It almost makes you question coaching at this point.
Yes.
Like when you have a team that's as good as the Chargers have the potential to be, and they have a 4-6 record, and they lose to a team
something's
like
got
the Packers.
They just have been. They've been in most of their games. They just have not been able to find ways to win games. And like you said, you gotta change something. Figure out get to the bottom of this problem, because this is a team that should be winning. This is a team that's better than the record.
Sure.
This is a team that should be at least the wild card team. I believe I picked them to be, and as of right now, it's just not looking.
It doesn't look
good.
like it.
And Green Bay, who has not had a good season, will be playing Detroit on Thanksgiving.
Yep. Love actually looked pretty good this
He
game.
did. He did.
He had some pretty good throws. 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns, but over 300 yards.
Yeah, 300 passing yards. I mean,
this is a team, Green Bay, that we haven't talked about a lot because they haven't been good, but they're a young team that it's more about experience, I think, right now.
Like, they know they're not going to.
Yeah, we'll see what we get out of Green Bay in the future. And obviously, I know Green Bay, we've talked about this before, are not used to having teams like
so
this.
the Green Bay's like, the world's ending and they're only 2 games
actually,
under.
you're not in a terrible, you're not in a good spot for this season, but it could be worse. It could be way worse.
You could
be Carolina.
It could be Carolina.
So, you got to win here at home. Good for Green Bay, but what's going on with the Chargers? I don't know.
I looked up the Chargers schedule, and they lost their first game by 2, their second game by 3 in overtime.
Yeah,
they lost.
It seems like week after week
you're in these games and you find
how they
lose.
can't close out the games.
Yes, you can't.
Their last 2 games by 3.
So it's one possession.
That's 4 games right there. They lost 6.
So no, that's literally
they should be 9-2 or 8-2.
Well, 4 so 4 games right there. What, a combined 10 points?
Yeah.
You lost by?
I feel like we've talked about this every week.
Yes.
They just can't close it out.
And it's not good.
Or they can't score in the red zone. Like, let's look at
again, we talked about Pittsburgh right now in a wild card spot. Over the Chargers are not the Chargers should be a way better team than Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Well, let's look at this here. So, they field goal right off the bat, their second possession of the game. If that field goal turns into a touchdown, which they were in the red zone.
They had a turnover on downs. It looks like their first drive,
too.
Yeah,
I mean, that was pitiful. That was a 6-yard drive.
Yeah.
But this is a 79-yard drive. Let's see where they got to. Were they in the red zone?
Yeah, 25. It was a 25-yard field goal. Yeah.
So they were in the red zone. That should have been a touchdown.
They did get a touchdown.
Bad one.
But
negative one.
Then another field goal.
71-yard drive ends in a field goal.
Yeah.
72-yard drive ends in a fumble. They finally get a touchdown. And then a couple
and then with the drop at the end, I think was the turnover on downs, which ended the game.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about this before, how on long drives, a key to winning football games a lot of times is once you get in the red zone, can you convert and score touchdowns consistently and not have to settle for field goals? That is especially in close games like this, that is a huge difference. When you lose by 3, you have 2 70-plus drives that end in field goal.
They had 3?
Well, 3.
Well, the one ended in the turnover.
Okay, but 2 that ended. I mean, still, field goal is better than nothing, but you gotta find a way.
Yeah. One of those field goals turning into a touchdown wins the game.
Especially once you get into the playoffs and playing against good teams. Yeah, you gotta find ways to punch it in the end zone, and that's been an issue.
It's been the story with the Chargers all year.
Yeah, it has. So now a team that is surprisingly good, and mind you, Stroud didn't have a good game, but Houston.
No, this was probably Stroud's worst game of the season
against a not good Arizona team. Mind you, they got Kyler Murray back, but
the thing is that amazes me with Stroud in this game is if you watch the game, he threw 3 picks. He still had 2 touchdowns and 330 yards.
And
he
that
didn't
one,
let the picks affect him, even though he more than doubled his pick count in the 10th week of the season, and he didn't let it affect him.
I'll say this about Stroud is, for a rookie especially, his mental
poise that he plays
poise
with.
and his mentality. Mentally, he's so mature.
Yeah.
And that one touchdown he had to Dell was just that was a
Also,
beautiful
what is up with Dell? Like,
and Dell came out
where's
of
she
nowhere.
coming from? Yeah. Like, if
Dell has come out of nowhere,
if
he's great.
his
He's like a top
quarterback,
receiver in the league.
Yeah, if Stroud wasn't so good, Dell would be Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to win.
Is he a rookie?
Yeah, he's a rookie.
I believe so. Yep, he's a rookie too, so yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
and also
they very well could have the number 1 and number 2 Rookie of the Year.
That just shows you the team's future.
Well,
too.
and also now the last couple weeks too,
the
former Bills running back Devin Singletary is looking fantastic.
He had 150 and 112
12 and touchdown to both those too. So yeah, he's looking great.
The Houston Texans have looked that week 2 of the season. They're horrible.
Yeah.
Week 10, they very well could make the run in the playoffs.
And I know I said it a couple weeks ago. I still stand by it. If Houston makes it to the playoffs, Stroud should be not only Rookie of the Year, he will be, but MVP. Yes.
Like, even with a 3-pick game, the way that he held himself and still had a good game yards-wise and 2 touchdowns, you still have to consider this a good game.
The thing is, and again, as bad as it was with the 3 picks, he found a way to win.
The 3 picks weren't even like. I think the one was pretty bad. What was it? What were his picks?
Well, and again, we talked about with Jared Goff too. 3 picks and found a way to win.
Yeah.
If you find ways to win, that's what. And again, as good as Herbert's looked, the Chargers can't find ways to win.
Mm-hmm.
You win games, you lose games. All that's where it matters.
At this point in the season is a top 5 QB in the league.
And I'll say this, because what other of the top QBs that we thought of as top QBs going into the league? What one is playing at an MVP? Maybe Lamar.
I would say he might be playing at MVP level.
I don't know.
Hurts has been playing pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
But he hasn't done anything like crazy.
Yeah. Again,
Stroud is leading a crappy Texans team to the playoffs.
Should be in the
at this
playoffs,
point.
yeah. And think about it, Joe Burrow. Obviously, he was battling with injuries, but hasn't had a good season.
He's out.
Mahomes hasn't had a great season.
Hasn't been great.
Josh Allen hasn't been consistent. And again, Josh Allen has scored a lot of touchdowns, but he's also had a lot of turnovers as well. So
he's been playing like typical Josh Allen.
Yeah, and you could say too, with Mahomes, you could maybe say some of it's his receiver, but he still has not looked.
He just hasn't looked like Mahomes. Hurts hasn't looked.
Maybe
bad.
Tua's looked fairly good at
looked
times.
fairly good. The thing is, he has the best offense
exactly.
in the game.
Yeah.
So it's not like how much is that? Is
Stroud coming in as a rookie on a team that was terrible last couple of years.
Yeah.
This is impressive. This is really impressive.
It's amazing, and I obviously, I'm a Commanders fan. I know our season's over. I'm rooting for the Texans the rest of the year.
Yeah, and obviously,
and I hated the Texans 2 years ago. I was like, I don't want them to win anything.
And obviously, we've been defending Fields. We love Stroud. We're a little biased.
Buckeye fans. But even aside from that,
seriously, there's arguments with Fields. With Stroud, you can't even argue at this point how good he's been, especially as a rookie.
He's got to be this point. He's got to be top 5 in your MVP race.
Yes,
he has to be.
And
he's
going to win Rookie of the Year.
He could miss the rest of the season, and you still have to give him Rookie of the Year.
So, this obviously, like I said, we're a little biased, but you can't even beat with this because he's been so good.
Yeah.
Again, it's a Houston team that for the last couple of years has been terrible, really since Deshaun Watson had his issues.
That whole fiasco.
Houston has not been the same.
And they traded away Hopkins.
I'll tell you
their
what.
Whole team.
I think with the Deshaun Watson thing, I think Houston won that for sure.
At this point,
for sure.
Well,
with the money that he's guaranteed and the fact that he's not even played that much,
all the picks that they got for him,
that helped too. They for sure won that. So good for Houston.
But
quickly turned it back around, and they're in a spot, like you said, it's making the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
And as a Bills fan, obviously in the AFC, I hope we make it in. But I would like to see. I think Houston should be in over a Cleveland or Pittsburgh, personally.
I'd rather see that too. It's right priced. Make more money. On the other side of this game, though,
Arizona's looked better since Murray's got
Murray
back.
has definitely looked a whole lot better.
Yeah, he's helped.
He's helped a lot.
They're just not. At this point, obviously,
There's
they're
just
not.
nobody else on the team,
they're not a
no.
good team. But it's good to see Murray back healthy and starting
It
to
is.
play like you want him to play. He's
not at the same level
Yes.
as he was when he
A
was
couple
in
years
the
ago,
MVP
yeah.
conversation a couple years ago. But when you come back from an injury, especially at being gone as long as he
Yeah.
was, you don't really.
and especially
expect
the
to do
lack
that as
of
quick.
guys he's got around
Yeah,
him too.
exactly.
It's not been bad. It could be worse for Arizona.
It could definitely be worse.
You're 2-9. I know it's not good, but
Well, they do own their pick,
That-
though.
that
So
too,
that helps
yeah.
a lot. They could get a good
again,
pick.
you're not Carolina, so
Yeah.
you got a lot better future ahead of you. So next one, Jacksonville. My voice is crap. Jacksonville at Tennessee. Now Jacksonville coming off of a bad loss to the 49ers.
They really bounced back.
Bounced
here on
back.
this game.
A
It
divisional
looked very
game.
good.
Tennessee obviously not been consistent. Will Levis didn't have a terrible game here, but Jacksonville playing like the Jacksonville team.
Yeah,
that,
playing like we expected.
a playoff
them
team.
to.
You know,
And actually, Jacksonville's record 7-3.
that's good. Yeah.
That's pretty good. It's tied for third best record in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this Titans team we knew wasn't very good.
Yeah.
They're definitely rebuilding.
And they got a rookie quarterback now starting, who again does not look terrible. But the thing is with Jacksonville is, I thought 7-3 is good. I thought they were going to run away with this division. Either way, they're going to be a playoff team. But with Houston in their division,
Yeah, at this
it's
point,
still up in the air though.
The way
because Houston's
Houston's
only a
been
game
playing,
back.
yeah.
So Jacksonville's need. I think they're going to be a playoff team. But if they want to win a division, they need to close this. They still got to
They
win
do.
some games to win. But this was
It's
a big
not
one
as
here.
much of a cakewalk as we originally thought
Yes,
it would
yes,
be for
yes.
them. Which honestly, it's kind of nice because it's always fun to see that in divisions. Like teams that run away with divisions is never as exciting.
No, and that's the thing is, I know there's some times where you see a crappy division and a team gets in, it's like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
But you love to see these divisional
Yeah.
rivalry games, and the way it plays out, it always comes down at the end of the year to one or two important games within a division, no matter what division it is.
It always seems
It
like
makes it
happens.
interesting, it makes it fun, and for a division that Jacksonville, obviously, this was a good win for them. But for a division like we said, we thought it looked like they were run away with. Not
Which
yet.
is crazy because if you would have told me Jacksonville had a 7-3 record and the Texans were sneaking up on them,
Yes,
I would have
yeah.
said you're crazy.
Well, I think we both picked Jacksonville to win this division.
Yeah.
We thought this was going to be a weak division, and yeah, like you said, 7-3 at this point, and they're still only one game up on Houston. So
yeah.
And they got St. John's back from jail.
St. Jones is out of jail, and Calvin Ridley, who was suspended last year for gambling.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Wow.
Speaking of, you said picks, so it made me think of it. We both picked Houston last game.
Yes.
Yes.
We
And
both
then
picked Jacksonville
we both
this
picked
game.
Jacksonville
Yeah.
We
this
we
game.
had it, I think, a 10-4.
10-4.
So you were 12-2 last week and 10-4 this week. So combine the last 2 weeks
That's-
since our last podcast.
Oh, yeah. 6
22
wrong.
You've done really good, really good. So yeah,
Well, don't jinx it. I'm gonna get like 2 right next week.
yeah. Anyway,
that
next
game.
game, Miami. Now this was Miami won, but this was actually close.
This
Closer than I thought it was going to
yeah,
be.
the Raiders have looked so much better since firing their head coach.
Yes.
And
Putting
going
O'Connell
with
in.
O'Connell,
Which
now
is also a rookie
O'Connell
quarterback.
Did not look great.
No.
He threw 3 really bad picks.
But again, he's a rookie, and it still looked better for the Raiders. 5-6.
And if you notice, I believe Devontae Adams has actually been involved with the games.
Yeah, I
since,
know, right? Let's look at this. Yeah.
Yeah, look at the He went from his highest game. Well, week 3
Yeah, one
against
good
Pittsburgh,
game, yeah.
he did phenomenal. But he went from so this is week 6. So 29 in week 6.
Well, it was
57.
after that game at Detroit, week 8, is where they made the move,
Yeah.
fire their coach.
Yeah.
And,
so since then,
yeah.
he's done his
Now, week
targets
9
are
wasn't
going way
great,
up,
but the
yeah.
last 2 weeks,
86 yards,
86,
82
82, and a
yards.
touchdown this
Yeah.
last week. So
Finally using your weapons.
you're figuring out. I don't know. Raiders are a team that's still technically in the hunt for the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but the fact that they even competed in Miami against Miami with a rookie
It's
quarterback,
surprising.
yeah. And it wasn't the best game for the Dolphins. They found a way to win.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like the Dolphins the last couple of
They're
times
kind
they
of
played is
sneaking in there.
well, they lost to the
they've kind of gone
Chiefs.
under the radar.
They
but
lost to the
like,
Chiefs.
haven't been as
They had that
dominant.
bye week the last week,
Yeah.
and then they barely squeaked this out against.
Yeah, In 3 of their last 4 games, they've been 20 or under in offense. Which for a team that we consider to have the best offense in the league.
Which is crazy because after that game against Denver, they scored 70. We're like, their offense is good, Denver's defense is terrible. We'll get to that, but Denver's defense has started to look good. And Miami's offense,
struggled a little bit against teams with not great.
Now they play another good, not a good offensive team, but another team that's defensive heavy this next week against the Jets on Black Friday, which is where they got a Black Friday.
That is odd. They were marketing that.
Yeah,
weird. Black Friday. It's not a holiday.
I mean,
I wish it was a holiday.
Hey, another
I'd take another day off of work.
Another excuse to have a football game, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Makes it easier to watch when they're all spread
Anyway,
out.
we'll get to that, but Miami squeaks out a win here. And I think, again, the AFC East, as bad as Buffalo's, they haven't looked bad, but inconsistent, I'd say.
Yeah.
They have had some weeks that have been bad.
Yeah.
That division's also still up for grabs with Miami and Buffalo. I don't think, obviously, New England's out of it. Jets have a better record, but again, we'll get to that, but they're not looking great either. But Miami's atop of it right now, but still that division up for grabs.
And we both did.
We both did pick Miami that game. So, next game, San Francisco, Tampa Bay. Not
like we said last week. San Francisco
are back. Yeah,
they're back.
They're back.
McCaffrey's looked really good. Another week without a touchdown.
Yeah. Which
2 in a row.
Well, did he have a receiving? He may have had a receiving.
Oh, did he?
I think.
Nope.
That's just rushing. Can we look at?
Does it not
let's look
show?
at the box score. There we go. Yeah, he did have a receiver.
So he did have a touchdown.
He missed he broke his streak last week and didn't, but he did have a touchdown still this week. But it wasn't a blowout by any,
Yeah. I almost
means, but
I almost feel bad for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Because he's actually looked pretty good this year. Like I said, I feel like if he'd have stayed on the Browns, they would be doing much better.
But this was a game in San Francisco. Again, it wasn't a blowout. It was still a decent win.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy, though, I think he had a perfect passer rating this game.
He did. A perfect pass. He had, I seen the stats, since the merger, he's had the second, these 2 games, he has had the highest 2-game average for QB rating ever.
Yeah, I mean, and again, he had part of it was due to, I think some of his weapons were injured. The middle of the season, there was a little bit of a rough spot for the Niners, but I think since they had the bye week, they've looked back.
They've looked very good. They needed the rest, which we knew they did. We talked about that. Yeah, they lost a couple games in a row,
but we weren't worried. Yeah,
we weren't worried.
It wasn't like they were big season-ending injuries. Again, they just needed. And in NFL, it's tough to win. Even though at the beginning of the season, it's like, who's going to beat the 49ers? Then they've gotten that slump. But they've climbed back out of it.
At this point,
they're still in a good position.
Still Super Bowl odds. I mean, they're still looking like they're going to make the Super Bowl.
And if McCaffrey can continue to make his impact and Purdy plays like this, with the weapons they got,
they're the team to beat.
Even defensively, they added Chase Young, too.
Yeah, adding Chase Young, by the way.
Which has helped them since that bye. Because I think that happened during their bye week.
So you got a whole week's practice to get ready.
Yeah, they're still one of the top teams in the NFL and a Super Bowl contender. So, yeah,
good for them. And poor Buccaneers. You had Tom Brady, now you have Baker, who actually has.
It's not bad.
Like
it's just
said, but the rest of the team's not great.
So, next game, the Jets at Buffalo. Finally, we looked like the Bills.
But it was against the Jets, though. No,
but the Jets have a good defense.
They were fine.
Now, offensively,
did you see the clip where the Jets were walking? I don't remember if they were walking into the locker room at half. And Wilson tripped over nothing and fell over on his butt. That was hilarious.
Did you see after the game when they were walking to the locker room and the Jets guy was coming at the Bills guy and trying to fight?
So I didn't see that. They need 2 tunnels.
Well, we're building a new stadium and there will be 2 tunnels. Which, interesting enough, with the Ohio State, that team up north, I'm not going to say it, game this week, which is why I'm decked out. That's another team where they only in the big house they only have 1 tunnel and
that's not the game you want to have 1 tunnel.
So the 1 tunnel we've seen is an issue in the NFL. Obviously, we got an older stadium, we'll build a new stadium, but we saw a fight in the tunnel this week. Divisional rivalry. I'm sorry, the Jets. They're not good. They did not play good. Defensively, they're good, but we looked better offensively. But their offense
Zach
was
Wilson
terrible.
actually got benched, didn't he? He's
You know what's funny? He didn't even get benched. Well, he got benched in this game, but I saw when the depth chart came out for this next week. He's now third string.
Yeah, he's third.
They put him at third string, and that's not even counting Rodgers. They're like, we're done.
Boyle, who by the way is horrible. If you look at Boyle's career stats, it's awful. Morstead's actually the best. If you look at
their punter, that's their punter. On a fake punt was their best passing play of the game.
If you look at career stats, their punter is the best quarterback on the team right now.
Yeah, their punter had the best play of the game, which actually led to their only score of the game. But yeah, let's just say
bad. It's just really sad.
Did you see too that their receivers only had 5 yards, or I think it was 9 yards. It was under 10. I said 5 because that was Breece Hall had a 5 yard. Yeah, their backs had more receiving yards than their receivers. Well, look. So Breece Hall, that's
25 yards.
That's a tight end and a running back. That's a tight end. I'm talking about just the receivers.
Who's this guy?
It's a cornerback. Yeah. Their cornerback. It was the fake punt. The punter to the cornerback.
Yeah, their cornerback had more yards than any receivers.
So Wilson had 9. Gibson had 7. So
yeah.
Lazard had. So you had like 50. Okay, Wilson had 9. I guess it was Wilson.
So 14,
but
21. 21 total receiving yards by wide receivers.
So, and mind you, we got robbed. Well, I shouldn't say we. What's his name? I can't think of his name right now. The guy we traded for. Rasul Douglas. There we go. From Green Bay a couple weeks ago. The cornerback. Great trade, by the way. He got robbed AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He had 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, and like 4 tackles in this game.
Which works out pretty good for being just traded to the team.
Yeah,
I'd be pretty happy with that trade.
And Jalen Ramsey ended up winning that, which again, he had 2 interceptions too. But Rasul Douglas, who has only been there for a couple weeks, great
you would
trade.
think that they would have that as a factor.
It's the Jets offense. So,
when Zach Wilson's throwing the ball.
I think the biggest key of the game for Buffalo is 2 things. One, the whole team played with more energy and they wanted to compete.
Yeah, and I think having a new offensive coordinator
that definitely helped
a lot
because the offense
clearly it was not going well. Your offense looked like your offense.
And another thing is, it wasn't all on Josh Allen. We ran the ball more, balanced attack, and it worked out. So as bad as it's looked at times for Buffalo, now's the time of the season we need to turn around. We'll see. Obviously, we got a rough road ahead still, but this was a good game to get back on track.
Definitely was.
And the team, again, the offense played better. The whole team just played with a different sense of passion and urgency from the very first kickoff. I don't know if you saw, but opening kickoff, our fullback on special teams ran down, body slammed the Jets guy, forced the fumble, and we recovered. That was the first play of the game.
I didn't see that, no.
So that's how the game started. We felt like, again, the whole team just played harder, better, and finally we looked good.
Yeah. So moving on to
Rams and Seahawks, a divisional game, which the Seahawks, I was in LA, but the Seahawks with a decent record this year. This was a close loss, but a big loss for them, really.
It was interesting. I believe last game we both
picked Buffalo, and then we both picked the Seahawks probably here. Yeah, so we got this one wrong. Which is weird because I believe Cooper Kupp kind of got banged up. Not serious, but got banged up again this game.
Yeah, because he didn't do very good. Yeah, I can't have him on my fantasy team.
I think so did Kenneth Walker for Seattle, though. But it was kind of a low-scoring, interesting game.
I do believe Geno got hurt.
Geno did get hurt, too. Yes, he did.
His wrist. I don't think it's a big injury.
The thing is, they play the nightcap on Thanksgiving, and on a short week, will he be back or not? We'll see. But he did get hurt.
They haven't said anything about him yet.
Either way, again, a divisional game on the road. Seahawks, I think, have been the better team at least this year.
Yeah.
But the Rams able to come away with a low-scoring, close win.
For sure. Stafford didn't look too bad. He looked pretty good.
Stafford looked good.
He's looked good all year.
And Nakua, again, having a decent game.
Nakua still hasn't been quite as good since
Cup came back.
Cup came back.
But again, Cup kind of got banged up again in this game.
Yeah,
and
so he
stepped
had an
up.
opportunity, stepped up. Puka Nakua is still looking like a very good.
He's got a bright future.
Yeah, very bright future
Yeah.
for being a rookie.
Yeah.
Well, now he's not even. He's just barely leading rookie receivers because now
Because of Dell.
Tank Dell,
Yeah.
is just behind him.
Yeah.
And has way fewer receptions.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
not even close.
So, but either way, it's still been a good rookie season for Nakua, and
For sure,
4-6
very good.
is not where you want to be for the Rams. But considering some of the injuries they dealt with and things,
Yeah.
they're in a tougher division.
Going the first part of the season without arguably the
yeah.
best receiver in the league, that's tough. It's
Yeah,
tough
it
to
is,
start
it
like
is,
that.
it is.
And then going battling with injuries like we just talked about.
As both teams, I think, kind of battled injury. I think that's why the game kind of went the way it did.
Yeah.
Again, two divisional rivals in a rivalry. I couldn't spit that out for some
Yeah,
reason.
close.
But they kind of like we've seen in the AFC North, all divisions. It's just one of those games where both teams kind of banging each other up. Hard physical game, old school football.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Rams get a win at home.
Rams
So
came out on top.
this was the Sunday night game.
The best team in all of football won. The Broncos.
I'll tell you what. Interesting thing about this game is both these teams to start the year was rough. I've been on hot streaks. Josh Dobbs still played. No, it wasn't his best game, but he still played good. Broncos just found a way to win this
They're
game
the
at
better
home.
team. The best team in the NFL.
I'll say this though. What was kind of interesting and not a lot of people pointed out. So I think it was in the first half, if I believe, because I remember I made a mental note when Russell Wilson threw a ball away when he was going down. His knee actually hit the ground before he threw it away, and they didn't call that loss of yardage. It was like 11-yard sack that they didn't call in field position. But it was a third down, so Denver ended up punting it away anyways. So it probably doesn't matter. But the next Vikings possession, they got down inside the 10-yard line and settled for a field goal. That if they would have been a little bit closer, they could have maybe scored a touchdown. And in a game where you ended up losing by 1, does that matter? They'd say football is a game of inches, and I think that's a case. Again, that's being a little bit. But I remember when it happened, and they said the announcers pointed out, like, it's 11 yards, probably won't matter. And then when they didn't score, they got inside the 10 and didn't score. And I was like, I wonder if this is going to matter. I made a mental note. Sure enough, it mattered because you end up losing by 1.
But as far apart as those two events were,
yeah.
You know,
well, and again,
you can't say for sure.
You can't say too that Minnesota for sure would have scored a touchdown.
Yeah, no.
Like things would have played out differently probably, but it's just funny to.
It's
either way. I'm not a
interesting
fan.
to see things like that.
I'm not a fan of either of these teams. It was a great game. Both these teams, like I said, have been coming in this game were surprisingly two of the hottest teams in the league.
Well, honestly, like I said earlier, since my team's obviously out of it at this point, the Broncos and the Texans are the two teams I'm rooting for.
Well,
Broncos just because it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, because they were
it's
so
just
bad.
So funny.
Yeah, and now
and they beat every good team.
Again, it's tougher for me because they're both AFC teams now. I'm kind of rooting for the Vikings in the NFC because
the Vikings as well. Yeah,
how bad they started out the year. Justin Jefferson getting hurt, Kirk Cousins
you're
out for the
losing
season,
Kirk Cousins,
and now
then Dobbs is coming in. You're still playing.
Even then, Dobbs didn't have his best game, but he kept them in this. A couple plays still, it's like, wow, like he's.
Well, right after Cousins got hurt, everyone's like, "Oh, the Vikings
are done." Yeah, the Vikings are done.
That's what I thought.
And then they trade for Dobbs.
They trade for Dobbs.
The thing is, it worked out too because Kirk Cousins literally got hurt that Sunday right before the trade deadline.
2 days before the trade deadline.
And last minute move got Dobbs, and Dobbs that one touchdown he threw was he should have been sacked.
Good.
Like,
yeah.
So again, but what about Denver's defense too?
Denver's just like come out of
again.
nowhere.
They gave up 70 points earlier in the year, and now all of a sudden, it's like the last.
What did they put together to be
like
good?
the last couple games, they forced turnovers like to start the game, and they just
put it together.
I don't know. I think it'd be interesting if both these teams found a way to make it to the playoffs again. I want my team to make it over Denver, but still, both these teams are kind of.
Well, yeah, because right now Denver has the
tiebreaker against us. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Rough for you, it'd be.
It's interesting though, as just a NFL fan. the fact that these two teams are where they are right now, considering the way that they were at the beginning of the season, and even throughout
It's fun to
it's
watch.
It's interesting, yes.
It's fun. It's fun football.
And this game itself was a game that a couple weeks ago, for a primetime Sunday game, you would have thought, Vikings Broncos, but
but this was fun to watch.
A fun game. It was an important game for both teams.
It was entertaining.
And it was everything about this game was. It mattered. It was a good game. It was a close game.
It was a good football game.
Wow. So again, Broncos looking good. Josh Dobbs still looking good.
Yeah, Russell Wilson looked pretty good all year.
So.
Courtland Sutton and Russell Wilson they connected for a really nice touchdown towards the end of the game.
Courtland Sutton had probably the best catch of the year against the Bills last week for a touchdown, and then had a game-winning touchdown, a great catch. So the last 2 weeks, Courtland Sutton's had a crazy good touchdown catch, and Denver's still finding a way. Currently now they have the biggest or longest win streak in the league, which is crazy.
if you said week 10, the Broncos.
And again, I keep saying, I don't know. At this point, it's got to be still Stroud being that he's a rookie, but Dobbs playing away. Those would be my two guys that are impressing me. That like Dobbs and Stroud are two guys that are just like every time you watch them the last couple of weeks, it's just
Dobbs
amazing.
Very well could get what is that award?
Comeback
Player of the Year. But the thing is, did he even play last year at all?
I don't know if he did.
He threw 68 passes, so 2 games with passes.
He played, but it wasn't
not
an
playing
important.
At all seems like kind of a comeback.
Yeah, it does. Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think do you have to qualify?
Yeah,
Russell Wilson very well.
I don't know necessarily what the qualifications are for comeback player.
But if you don't play at all, that seems like.
Let's see if we can find out.
Is there specific qualifications for like what?
That seems almost more impressive than playing and.
The thing is, as a Bills fan, I don't think he deserves it, but a lot of people are saying like DeMar Hamlin, but
what did he do?
He doesn't even
he
start.
Didn't even do
anything. It's impressive considering he literally went into cardiac arrest and is still alive. But as far as like what he's done on the field, he hasn't done anything impressive.
His life came back, but
which is
football.
He got his life back, which is great. But football wise, he hasn't done anything.
There's not technically any any requirements for it. So,
but I'm just saying, even as a Bills fan, I don't think he deserves it. But I just know how the NFL is.
They're going to do it for the clicks.
That's what I'm saying.
Which is a shame because honestly, at this point in the season, if I had to pick a comeback player of the year, it's Russell Wilson.
Well, and I'm saying too, as a Bills fan who watches like all the games, like DeMar Hamlin hasn't done anything for it. He hasn't done anything for it.
Snaps.
Yeah. So
which they always do it for like the stories.
It's a good.
Well, that's like
feel
those
good
players,
story.
Like those players that like snap their legs or stuff. Like when Alex Smith did it. Did he win comeback player of the year?
Yep, I think he did. But he deserved it.
But
he
actually played.
Yeah,
like he started.
Yeah.
Because he played for
the Commanders,
for my team,
whatever they were called at
or
the time.
Redskins,
Redskins football team, whatever they were.
Who knows?
They may have still been the Redskins at the time, but
it was Redskins.
It was.
Because I think it was 2018 or something like that.
Yeah.
But either way,
that's a whole. But either way, these are two interesting teams. I would like pay close attention to at the end of the season and see if they can find their way in the playoffs and how they finish.
I would be if I was a fan of either of these teams. I would be very happy right at this point.
I think Minnesota, considering the way that they started and the injuries they've had, you should be happy. But they were expected to be good.
Yeah, I
Denver,
guess that's true.
The way that they were last year, they had. I mean, they weren't.
Horrible.
Yeah. So considering they're good for Denver because really they haven't been good since they won the Super Bowl. Years ago.
Was it 12?
They
had a pretty good defense in 15, didn't they?
It was somewhere. It was a lot. Peyton Manning's last year. It was Super Bowl 50. What?
Was it
58?
I feel like
so it was like 8 years ago.
Oh yeah, you're right. It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
15,
no.
15 or 16.
When did Denver win the Super Bowl?
I think 2015.
16. Oh, it was the 15th season though, right?
Yep.
So
and that's when they had the really good defense too.
So
against the Panthers,
but really,
they're bad.
Well, the Panthers were really good at that point. Remember, they only lost one game that year with Cam Newton. Mm-hmm. That was their best year since then.
He won MVP that year.
Yep. That's and
anyway.
And Von Miller, who the Bills got, who has not been back to full strength, was the Super Bowl MVP that year for that Denver defense. So it's rare to see a defensive player win.
Very weird.
Super Bowl, and he won it that year too. So anyway, but yeah.
Well, at this point, we don't talk much about offense, but or defense.
Yeah.
Sorry, we talked about
Yeah.
offense mainly. Defense player that should get some recognition, Myles Garrett.
Yes.
Honestly,
Well, at
this point in the season, the way it's going,
I've even heard some
he
people
could get some MVP votes.
Yes, I've
There's
even
a
heard some
good
people
chance.
arguing for him to get MVP, which
No offensive guy other than Stroud.
considering
how
the
much
position
the defense has covered their butts.
the position
And-
Cleveland's in right now. Yeah, and he's their best defensive player. So the way he's playing,
You have to have Myles Garrett as a top 5 MVP candidate. Right now.
So we'll see how it ends. The season
Yeah, the
plays
middle of
out.
the year is always different,
But I agree. As of right now, he's got to be in that conversation.
I would
for
give
sure.
him some votes for sure.
And I know he's coming back from an ACL. We talked about Kyler Murray, but going back to Von Miller, I hope he hasn't played like himself. I hope he continues to play
to
better.
get
But
better.
you just never know. But he's also an older,
Mm-hmm.
not as young anymore. But we'll get into that later.
We'll
But
see. We'll find
we'll see.
out.
But the Monday night game, which was a
huge
very big game, yes,
Super Bowl rematch.
both coming off of byes too.
Both coming off byes.
The Eagles and Chiefs. We
guess
both.
who wasn't there and guess who lost?
Yeah.
The Taylor Swift wasn't there, and you want to know who played bad? Travis Kelce.
Well, he did score a touchdown, but he didn't have the yards or catches usually. He fumbled in the red zone, and that was huge too. Again, this was kind of a weird. It was a rainy, sloppy game. Obviously, the weather wasn't ideal. The weird thing is the defense is, again, played good in this game.
Well, because neither offense really was very good.
We both picked the Eagles this game, right?
Yeah.
Again, we were 10-4, so pretty good week for us pick. But this could have gone either way in Kansas City.
Yeah, the
I think
Eagles
Chiefs-
cement themselves as probably the best.
Well,
team
and now
in
they
the
have the
league
best
right
record in the league. The Chiefs were, I think, they're at home too. But they were the favorites, I think, going into this game.
now. They were.
But yeah, Super Bowl rematch, a huge game.
It's
Both defenses played good. Chiefs defense is surprisingly playing almost better in offense right now. We know what the Eagles defense has, but they played good. It was a really rough offensive game for the Eagles, but they found a way to win.
Did.
And that's the thing. The Eagles, and they'll tell you themselves. I've heard some interviews from like Jalen Hurts and some of the guys.
Yeah.
Like they haven't played their best offensive ball yet, but they're finding ways to win games.
Which is what you need to do as a good team. We put a lot of emphasis on this.
As a Bills fan, we play the Eagles in Philadelphia this next week, so we'll see how that goes. But obviously, everyone talks about the dropped pass by Valdez-Scantling at the end, which obviously was huge. But the Chiefs still didn't play a great.
Well, the drop catch by Kelce was just
He dropped the catch, fumbled the ball. Mahomes threw a red zone interception too. I mean,
the whole team.
It was weird because Kansas City actually moved the ball more, but they could not convert in the red zone except that once they scored the touchdown.
Well, yeah, because I believe you go to
Philadelphia in the first half.
The Chiefs had more time of possession, more first downs.
Because Philadelphia in the first half especially could not move the ball at all.
No.
And yet, somehow, in the second half, when they needed to, they did.
The Chiefs had 100 more yards of offense than the Eagles did.
Yeah. The Eagles' offense, again, especially first half, looked terrible. But they found a way to win. So both these teams, obviously, still in good spots, Super Bowl contenders. I'd actually feel more nervous if I'm a Kansas City fan than in Philadelphia because they're still. It wasn't a great game for Philadelphia, and they still found a way to win on the road. And for the Chiefs,
9-1 though, dude.
The Chiefs have still a decent record, but
I'd be getting nervous.
There's some holes in that team and some weaknesses for sure.
The way that they've been playing, they could leave the playoffs in an early round.
Yeah. I agree, and I think a lot. They're 7-3, but a lot of their wins could have been they barely pulled out. They could have been losses.
And their losses weren't good.
No, and their loss. They should have lost to the Jets. Which the weird thing is the Eagles' only loss was to the Jets, which
is just
a
weird.
Fluke thing. They could have lost to Minnesota. They could have lost. They did lose to Denver.
Yeah.
The Miami
They've
game
just
was
been very up and down.
Yeah. And again, they found ways to win. They've still got a decent record, but again, in the playoffs, the way that they've been playing. Again, in the NFL too, it's not like it's a 7-game series. You lose one game in the playoffs and you're done. So
there's no
room for error in the playoffs in the NFL. So
which I honestly think is more fun.
Yeah, it makes every game
single elimination.
The thing is, the NFL, obviously the way the football is, you couldn't do that anyways.
It'd take forever.
Because you'd have to do it at least.
That's how they do it with baseball, though.
Yeah.
But baseball's a whole lot
well,
less
baseball.
physically demanding.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Baseball and basketball, they do every other day or so.
But it's a whole lot less physically
Yeah,
demanding.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. But football, that's the thing. Even in the regular season, it's a shorter. It's such a short season that every game matters so much. That's why football. I mean, again, every sport's great in its own way, but that's the thing I think makes football so exciting. Every game is so important.
Well, that's why you see a sport like baseball. The World Series gets a lot of attention paid to it, and start of the playoffs. But the MLB playoffs takes 9 years.
And the year
it's
the regular season is so long.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why the NBA is now currently doing the first year their in-season tournament thing because they're trying to get some more viewership in that early part of the season. Because usually this is the part of the season. Again, no one pays it. Yeah. So football every week and every game matters so much that you get that viewership every week. Whereas, like I said, the NBA and we'll see what the MLB does. They're trying to find ways to get more viewership in because there's certain parts of the season where the season's so long it's hard to constantly get consistently good viewership. So that's a whole nother discussion.
Completely unrelated to what we're talking about.
Anyway,
that's okay.
that wraps up week 11. Now going into week 12. We finally reached Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
So,
woohoo!
Let's go. Let's start with the Detroit Green Bay game, which is the first game on Thanksgiving.
The first game, I don't really think it's going to be a very close game.
I think Detroit should win.
Detroit should walk
It's a
away
divisional
with this
game
one.
again. Detroit was at home last week against the Bears and almost lost that game.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, it's a tradition in Detroit. They're actually got a good team. Playing Green Bay, you're at home.
That is going to be one crazy crowd.
It will be.
We'll put it that way.
And, I'm going Detroit.
Detroit for sure.
I'm not a Lions fan, and obviously the Lions haven't even been good. And usually, other than last year because the Bills played Detroit on Thanksgiving, but usually I do like to root for Detroit on Thanksgiving. But this year,
I'm definitely rooting for Detroit.
I am too, and I think they should win this. They should win this game.
It shouldn't be very close.
Detroit, we both got next game. Your Commanders at Dallas. Well,
I expect my team to lose by 7 touchdowns.
So not that crazy, but I do expect it to be bad.
I don't know the way our defense. They put 70 points up. Well,
and Dallas finds a way to beat up on the teams that I don't know.
The Commanders are just so bad.
It's just we talked about it earlier. Dallas is always not the best, or at least they're competitive.
They find a way to beat up on the bad teams.
Against the good teams, but the bad teams they beat up on.
I expect Sam Howell to have a very good game because I don't think the Dallas defense is very good.
And I will say for a lot, I don't know, there hasn't been many nationally televised games that Washington has played in this year. This is a chance on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, for Sam Howell
for them to kind of prove.
Yeah.
Again, but I think Dallas is at home. Again, another team that always plays on Thanksgiving.
They're favored by almost 2 touchdowns. So
it's funny because I say how I usually root for Detroit. I usually root against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving because I don't like the Cowboys.
Well, you better root for my team.
Hey, and I would like for Washington to win. I just don't think they will.
Yeah, they will. I highly doubt it. I would love it if they win.
I would too. I'd be
not
happy.
like the Cowboys at all.
And so now the night game for Thanksgiving,
San Francisco
at Seattle, and a very big game, really. A divisional game.
Seattle
is one
records
game
are actually pretty close.
Yeah, so
but
I'm personally going to go San Francisco.
I think San Francisco is going to walk away with it. They've been playing a whole lot better after their bye week. They looked really good last week. Seattle hasn't looked great. Geno Smith hurt himself. He's going to be on light rest. We'll see how that goes.
Kenneth Walker, I think, was hurt too.
Yeah, I'm just going San Francisco here. It's pretty obvious.
This game is it's a divisional game in Seattle, a big game, but San Francisco I think is a better team, and so Seattle's a little bit beat up too. Yeah. So
and the
Black Friday
football, the world famous event.
First year they're playing on Black Friday. It's an AFC East matchup between the Dolphins and the Jets.
Why did they pick such a weird matchup for this?
Well, going into the year, this was expected to be a big game because the Jets were expected to have Rodgers. Dolphins haven't, It was,
I didn't think about that. I guess it's just at this point.
The Jets have not.
The Jets have been horrible. They're going to be playing their punter. Should probably be their starting quarterback.
Yeah, no, honestly, I would like to see the Jets win, but Miami's
going to win this one. It would be cool to see, like, it wouldn't be cool to see someone get injured, but if their starting QB got injured and their punter led them to a win against the Dolphins, that would be cool.
I'm just.
Can I say that
Sure.
if the punter is the quarterback for a majority of the game, they will win.
Hey,
I want that. I want that wrote down.
No, it'll be interesting because Miami again, offense, even though it's good, hasn't looked as good the last couple weeks. And the Jets do have a good defense at home. Can they stay at least in it for a while?
Mm-hmm.
Make it interesting. We'll see. Again,
the Dolphins just have too good.
I would like
offense.
the Dolphins to lose, but they're just against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
The Dolphins should win
happen?
this game. Yeah. Before we go to the next, let's talk about Saturday a little bit. Ohio State and that team up north. The game, 2 versus 3, second year in a row. Both teams are undefeated. One team's a cheating team.
Well, yeah, one team is no longer going to be able to cheat to win. So
hey, it's everything comes down to this. It does. Even funny thing is, even when the teams aren't this good, this game always matters. It's always important, but especially when it's
the number 2.
Now, mind you, we saw Ohio State lost last year, and we both still made it to the playoff. But
it would be very cool.
The funny thing is,
if
not only do obviously we always want to win that game, but if Michigan, I just said it. Oh, no, but if they lose, their resume is not as good.
No.
Like they have a harder chance of getting into the playoffs
because they haven't played anybody.
Than Ohio. So.
Whereas if
Bucks.
because they won't have the Big Ten championship at that point. They only have one ranked opponent win,
which
I
was
believe.
Penn State.
Penn State,
and
who is now not very good.
Well, and who we also beat.
who we beat. We beat Notre Dame and Penn State, and
we beat Wisconsin
on the road.
What was it? Was there
another ranked team?
There was another team, yeah.
I don't remember who it was. Missouri? No, not Missouri.
No, it was. Well, we beat Penn State.
Yeah, either way, we have
a better. Even the Notre Dame game in and of itself was. So again, it's the game of the year in college football so far. Implications are huge, and they have been the last couple of years. But it'll be interesting. But as Ohio State fans, we're going up to the big house. So go Bucks.
Go Bucks for sure.
Now let's go back to the NFL.
Back to NFL.
Sunday. First game, Saints at Falcons.
Two kind of, they were both on bye last week, right?
We can go back. One of them at least was.
I thought they were both on bye.
Saints,
yep, you're right. They both were on bye.
Yeah.
Yep.
Both kind of lackluster, middle of the road teams. Nothing too exciting.
Do they have a chance of winning their division?
I think the Saints do.
They're lackluster teams, but they're in a
both,
They're top 2 in their division. So it's
and
actually
they're
a
the
big
same
game.
division. This has playoff implications.
Huge playoff implications, actually.
Not necessarily because the teams are so good.
Just because their division
their division sucks. Between these two teams, though, if I'm going to have to pick, I'm going to have to pick the Saints.
Well, it's in Atlanta, and I saw that I think they're starting Ritter again. Because they started Heineke the last couple weeks. I think Ritter's going to start again.
Well, that almost makes me want to pick the Saints more.
Also, same. Also, I think obviously they had the bye, but I think Derek Carr kind of got beat up the last time they played. He should be back, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to go Saints as well.
Yeah.
I think I picked the Saints to win this division going into the year. They have not played fantastic, but I still think, again, I could see it's going either way, really.
I think going back to Ritter is not a good idea.
We'll see. They're playing at home, divisional game, but I personally think the Saints... Atlanta has, I think, a bright future. They're a young team. They haven't been terrible. I mean, the record's not great, but, I just think the Saints are a better team as of right now. So, yeah. And this next game is also...
Which would have been a completely different game 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's in Cincinnati-Pittsburgh, a divisional game, which means a lot, but we talked about, as bad as Pittsburgh's look, their defense is good. And now the Bengals don't have
offense is horrible now.
So
I'm going to go. Last week I would have been crazy for saying this, but I'm going to go Pittsburgh.
I don't know what I want, honestly.
Who even is their quarterback?
It's Browning, who has been. He came from Washington. Jake Browning.
He's a rookie.
Thing is he's been around, but he hasn't actually played. This is his first year playing, so they count him as a rookie, even though he's like been out of college for I don't know how long. He's like 27. But
that was his first season.
That's what
at all. Period.
He's been out of because I remember him in college like I don't know how many years ago. Either way, he doesn't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
What is he going to bring? Obviously, he's not Joe Burrow, but
and the thing is, if
Higgins
is still out or
that
hurt,
too.
like they just don't have anything going for him. I was taking Pittsburgh.
I'm going to go Cincinnati still. I just think Pittsburgh's. Now we'll see how their offense looks with now. This is their first game since they fired their offensive coordinator. But I'm picking Cincinnati because I think it's at home, first of all. It's a divisional game. I don't think Pittsburgh's offense is that good. Now, their defense is good, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah.
At 3 points or less. But I think they'll just do enough in this game to find a way to win. And it may even be on the defensive end. I think they may even get a defensive touchdown or something.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It's Pittsburgh's great offense.
That's my guess.
Pickett.
So, yeah, I could go either. The Pittsburgh pick's not. They're probably favorites actually in this game. They are.
By one.
But yeah. So I don't know. Just change it up, and I'm gonna go with Cincinnati in this one.
Next game. Another really
huge
big game.
Yeah, we just talked about how these teams in the top of their division. Jacksonville and Houston. Houston 1 game behind the Jaguars in the AFC South.
The football sense in me wants to pick Jacksonville, but my gut is telling me Houston.
This game is in Houston. Jacksonville's a 1.5 point favorite, but again, yeah, I'm going Houston too. I'm going Houston too. I just
like if CJ Stroud can win in this game. And they can improve to 7-4 after having the second overall pick.
I'll say this: I think Jacksonville's the better team, but for 2 reasons, I'm picking. Well, maybe 3. 1, I just want them to win. I'm cheering for them.
Yeah, I just want
2,
them to win.
It is at home. And 3, the way that they've been playing, I mean, they could very easily win this game.
They very easily.
I'm going for those 2 reasons. I'm going Houston. Again, if Jacksonville wins, I wouldn't be surprised, but
yeah,
huge game there.
Very big game. That is going to be a game to watch for sure. Next week. I'm definitely going to want to try to watch that.
Next game, Tampa Bay at Indianapolis. 2 middle of the pack, lower tier teams so far this year. Indianapolis still kind of in the mix there. 5-5 with Gardner Minshew.
Which is funny because Gardner Minshew, no one thought he was going to be starting any games.
No,
but when you get hurt,
injuries happen. Yeah. And I think I'm going to go Indianapolis. They're at home. I just don't. I haven't seen consistency. I haven't seen consistency out of either team, but Tampa Bay just not looked fantastic.
I'm going to go Tampa Bay on this one. I'm going to disagree. I think it's going to be close.
I do too.
I wouldn't be surprised at going either way. But I'm going to say Tampa Bay just because I think they're due for a good offensive game, and they haven't had one in a minute. And I know they have potential. And against an Indiana team where the defense isn't the best, I'm going to go with Tampa
Also, another weird thing, and I don't know exactly what's up, but I did see that Indianapolis released Darius Leonard. I think that's his name. The one key defensive.
Kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah, but a key defensive player they released, so I don't know what's going on there, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to have a factor in this game or not. But interesting.
Still, yeah. Changing things up like that does affect things, even if it's just one player.
Yeah, but I still am going with Indianapolis in that game. So, a old Super Bowl rivalry from back in the Brady Manning days, New England at the Giants. They now are terrible. Yeah, they now are very bad at 3-8 versus a 2-8 team.
I genuinely don't know who is the worst team here. They're both horrible.
Since I hate the Patriots, since it's at the Giants, and DeVito actually played halfway decent last week, I'm picking the Giants.
I mean,
go DeVito.
DeVito may be better than Dan.
I don't know.
I don't know.
He had a good game.
Which are they bench. Did they
Convenient.
bench
Played
Daniel Jones
better
now?
against.
Is Daniel Jones starting, or they got the
That's
what's
true.
his name? Zappy coming in now. Zappy.
What's his
I don't
name?
know.
Bailey Zappy.
DeVito played better against the Cowboys than Daniel Jones did week 1 too.
I
Just
know.
saying.
I got Tyrod. Is that
That's the
Tyrod
Giants.
Taylor? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bailey Zappy. Is he playing, or is it Mac Jones still?
Wait, let's see. What is this here?
Mac Jones.
That's the.
Will you start? That's the plan, I think. He doesn't even know. So
That's
yeah,
so funny.
That's telling you. If that tells you anything about what's going on in New
I
England.
think I'll start.
So yeah,
So funny.
I'm going Giants, even though they're both bad.
My problem is I hate the Giants. They're in my
Well,
division. They
New
just,
England's in my
They just
division.
gave my team the worst loss of the year.
New England gave my team the worst loss of the year. So hey,
I'm going New England just because I want the Giants to lose.
guess what? I want New
For
England.
no
Yeah.
other reason other than I want the Giants to lose.
I'm the same. I hate the Patriots, so not like this game matters. So.
It doesn't matter.
But yeah, we got to pick it.
Next game, Panthers, Titans.
Titans have not been good, but they're at home and they're better than the
have been
Panthers.
Horrible.
So I'm going
Titans for sure. I mean, it could be a team of Derrick Henry versus the entire Carolina defense. I think Derrick Henry would still win.
Titans have not been good, but Carolina really struggled
Yeah.
this year. In Tennessee, Titans.
That's not much to say about that.
Rams at Cardinals. Now the Cardinals, not a good record, but they've looked a little bit better.
They've looked better since Murray's coming back. It's at home. Is this his first home game?
No, I
think he's
he
been
had,
home.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. It depends.
Is Cup gonna
Is
be
Cup
back
gonna
too?
be back?
Yeah, that's a big question.
I'm not a fan of the Rams. So he sat out the first practice of this week. Puka Nacua was actually limited at practice.
The Rams are a bit beat up, so
Yeah. Honestly, just because he's back and it's a home game, just because Murray's back and it's a home game, I'm going to go Arizona on this one. Just because of injuries. Because they're so beat up.
Actually wouldn't be surprised if Arizona found a way to win this game. But I just think the Rams are
Definitely
team
a better
still,
team,
and
for sure. I agree with that.
so, yeah, I think if there's a game that Arizona wants to win or can win, it is this one. But I just think the Rams are the better team. They did, even though they were beat up, they still came off of a big win against Seattle last week, even though it was not the greatest game. So I think that, again, the Rams are a better team, so I'm going to go Rams. And this is actually a big game.
Another big game.
Cleveland at Denver. Yeah.
This will be a good proving ground for the Denver offense. Obviously, we know Cleveland doesn't really have much of an offense themselves.
And
so
can Denver
Denver's
capitalize
defense-
on that? Because Denver defense has looked good the last couple weeks as well.
This is a tough game.
I
being at Denver.
who do I want to? Who would be better for? I'm trying to think like. Not only is it a tough game because I think it could go either way, but I'm trying to think like for the Bills' sake, who would? I don't
I'd
know.
rather have Cleveland because
Denver got the
tiebreaker. I'm going Denver. I want Denver to win. I want Denver to win out and win the Super Bowl. I think it'd be hilarious.
Since he's going Denver, yeah, I think it's a good story for Denver, and I think Cleveland's a worse team than their record.
Yeah, they're definitely.
And it's in Denver. Denver are the favorites.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go Cleveland. Yeah. I think their defense is that good. Now, what production are you gonna get out of your offense if you're Cleveland? We'll see, but.
Next up, Kansas City at Vegas.
I would love for Vegas to win.
That would be awesome.
I
If
would
Vegas
love for
could
Vegas
win
to
this
win
game,
this
that'd be
game.
like the best Thanksgiving gift
They're playing
ever.
pretty good.
And they haven't been playing bad,
They
yeah.
haven't been bad at all.
And the
Actually.
Chiefs have not been playing great either. It's a divisional game in Vegas. This may be the only game that Kansas City plays in Vegas because the Super Bowl is in Vegas this year, and I don't know if they're going to be there.
Oh.
We'll see, but Kansas City obviously is the favorite.
It depends. If Taylor Swift is there, Kansas City will win.
Isn't she still in Brazil?
Yeah, she won't be there.
I mean,
Oh, she may say, "Forget the heat in Brazil. I'm going to Vegas, baby."
Yeah. No, the Chiefs. Chiefs are winning this one.
I think
as
the
funny as
Chiefs,
it would
yeah.
be if they lost, and I hope they lose. It'd be great. But the Chiefs are going to win this one for sure.
Yeah, as much as I hate the Chiefs and would love for the Raiders to win, the Chiefs, I think are going to win this one. Yeah.
Next game, your team
Bills at
the
Philadelphia.
This
is
really tough for your team because you have such a tough second half schedule.
Yes.
And your record is already not great.
These are must-win games.
And the thing
it's a tough
is,
schedule, yeah.
In a game like this, I'm going to say the Eagles are going to win.
Well, I think most people probably would pick the Eagles as the favorites. They're at Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. I just haven't seen enough.
And I agree. The inconsistency from the Bills, you don't know what you're going to get. Now, if we get a similar team or even a little bit better than what we got last week against the Jets, this should be a good game.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles' offense did not look great last week. Found a way to win. That's the thing. The Eagles have found ways to win, even though they haven't looked great. I think it's going to be close either way, actually. And obviously, as a Bills fan, I hope we win. I'm going to pick the Bills because I'm a little biased there, but I'm going to pick the Bills. Either way, I think it's going to be. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a good.
It'll be
like a playoff game.
It'll be a fun game to watch.
Which is interesting because one's in the AFC, one's in the NFC. They won't meet in the playoffs unless it's the Super Bowl, but it'll have a playoff atmosphere there in Philly. I think it's going to be like a playoff game. Huge implications. It's actually more important, I think, for Buffalo than Philadelphia. But also, I think if we win this game, it'll give Buffalo. Like, if we can come out of these next stretch of games with some wins, it'll give Buffalo some more.
Good. They're good teams you're playing,
not only
against the Eagles.
For positioning in the playoffs, because we're fighting to get there, but
also just the look of the team.
Yes.
Beating a team like the Eagles will look great for you guys because you haven't had very many good wins.
So, obviously I picked Buffalo, but it's going to be a fun game to watch either way. It's going to be a good game. We've said a lot of big games this week. We'll see how it goes, but hope my Bills can get a win. Sunday night game, Baltimore at the Chargers.
I don't know how this game is so close on the point.
The thing is, it should be a close game.
It should be.
And it probably will be, but again, like you said, the Chargers
can't close out.
And Baltimore's looking good.
Really good.
Even though they're on the road in LA, got to pick Baltimore too. I think they've by far, even though I think it should be, like I said, a good game, Baltimore's found ways to win games. They're just played like the better team this year. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going on with the Chargers, but we'll see. But I'm going Baltimore.
The final game, a Monday night game, we got the
Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. A divisional game. Can Minnesota, even though it didn't look terrible, they lost last week to Denver, bounce back at home. Josh Dobbs still. But the Bears looked decent last week.
Pretty good last week.
Justin Fields back now. Is Justin Jefferson going to be back yet?
I don't believe so. I think
it'll be a week or so.
He's got another week. He's not back yet. Let's say.
I think I'm going to pick the Vikings.
I'm going to pick the Vikings too. I think the Bears could potentially cause an upset here, but being at Minnesota, Dobbs has looked good.
Minnesota's just a better team overall.
Yeah, Minnesota's a much better team.
And this game means more for Minnesota because Minnesota's still fighting for a playoff position, whereas Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I could, like you said, I could see an upset, but I think it just means more for Minnesota at home, coming off of a close loss. They're going to want to bounce back in a game where they need it. And Josh Dobbs has still been playing good. I think Minnesota's going to find a way to win this game. It may be closer than people think. We'll see. But either way, Minnesota. That wraps up Week 12.
No buys this week.
Again, we finally reached Thanksgiving. A huge week of football for both NFL and college. It's rivalry week in college. Last week of the regular season in college. And again, the playoff picture getting that much tighter and that much closer to playoffs in the NFL as we get closer to December. The most important football is right. Thanksgiving weekend is when it's really.
This is when it all
starts ramping
turns.
up. So it should be an awesome week of football again for both NFL and college, and
it'll be exciting. Some good football this week.
Yeah, great football. A lot of.
Not for my team though. My team sucks. In NFL, college football, I'm excited.
Yeah, but I'll say you guys the Commanders play on Thanksgiving. A lot of people will be watching.
I'll watch it. It'll be a fun game to watch.
So
unless they start to lose now.
Football's always fun to watch on Thanksgiving, no matter what.
Yep.
And it should be another fun week as we should be back.
Yep.
Next week for a week. We'll break down what happened this week and then predict Week 13. As again, we're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. Especially in college. So
Yeah,
know
you're only.
Well, one last week and then the next week is the conference championships. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how
It'll be fun.
it all plays out. So
we'll see you guys next week.